The year 1600 loomed large over Japan. A nation, long fractured by civil war, stood on the precipice of a new era. The death of Toyotomi Hideyoshi, the great unifier, had left a power vacuum. His young heir, Hideyori, was but a child. Into this void stepped Tokugawa Ieyasu, a shrewd and patient daimyo. He had bided his time, accumulating power and alliances. His ambition was clear: to complete the unification of Japan under his own rule. Opposing him was a coalition of loyalists to the Toyotomi clan. Ishida Mitsunari, a brilliant administrator but less experienced general, emerged as their leader. He rallied the Western army, composed of powerful lords who distrusted Ieyasu's growing influence. The stage was set for a monumental clash. Both sides began to mobilize their forces across the archipelago. Messengers rode tirelessly, carrying summons and declarations of war. The air crackled with anticipation and dread. Families were torn as allegiances were declared. Farmers watched nervously as armies marched through their fields. The common people knew that their fate hung in the balance. Ieyasu, leading the Eastern Army, moved swiftly. He secured key castles and strategic points. His forces were disciplined and well-equipped. Many daimyos, swayed by his power or promises, joined his banner. Others remained neutral, waiting to see which way the wind would blow. The Western Army, though numerically strong, suffered from internal divisions. Not all its commanders fully trusted Mitsunari. Some harbored personal grudges or conflicting ambitions. This disunity would prove to be a critical weakness. The decisive confrontation was destined for a narrow valley. Sekigahara, a small, unassuming place, would soon become legendary. It lay nestled between mountains, a natural choke point. On the morning of October 21st, 1600, a thick mist enveloped the battlefield. Visibility was poor, adding to the tension. Thousands of samurai, clad in their distinctive armor, stood ready. Their banners, emblazoned with family crests, fluttered faintly in the still air. The ground was damp from the previous night's rain. The silence was broken only by the occasional neigh of a horse or the clinking of armor. As dawn broke, the mist slowly began to lift. The two vast armies became visible to each other. The Eastern Army, under Ieyasu, occupied the eastern side of the valley. The Western Army, led by Mitsunari, held the western slopes. Their formations stretched for miles. The sheer scale of the gathering was awe-inspiring. Commanders shouted orders, their voices echoing across the valley. Drummers beat a slow, rhythmic cadence. Trumpets blared, signaling the impending conflict. The tension was almost unbearable. The battle began with a fierce charge from the Eastern Army. Fukushima Masanori's contingent led the assault. They crashed into the Western Army's lines with devastating force. Swords clashed, spears thrust, and arrows rained down. Air filled with the cries of men and the roar of battle. Smoke from arquebuses drifted across the field. The ground quickly became slick with mud and blood. Individual duels erupted across the front lines. Samurai fought with a ferocity born of honor and desperation. The initial exchanges were brutal and indecisive. Mitsunari, from his command post on Mount Sasao, watched anxiously. He expected key allies to join the fray. Kobayakawa Hideaki, positioned on Mount Matsuo, was crucial. His defection could turn the tide. However, Kobayakawa remained static, his intentions unclear. This inaction sowed doubt and confusion among the Western ranks. Ieyasu, observing from his own position, grew impatient. He reportedly ordered his arquebusiers to fire at Kobayakawa's position. This act, whether a warning or an attack, finally spurred Kobayakawa into action. To the shock of many, Kobayakawa's forces descended Mount Matsuo. But they charged not at the Eastern Army, but at their former allies. This betrayal was a crushing blow to the Western Army. It created a massive breach in their lines. Other Western daimyos, seeing Kobayakawa's defection, also switched sides. Wakisaka Yasuharu and his men followed suit. Western Army's cohesion began to unravel. Panic spread through their ranks. The tide of battle had decisively turned. Despite the overwhelming odds, some Western commanders fought valiantly. Shimazu Yoshihiro, known for his fierce independence, launched a desperate counterattack. His small contingent cut a bloody path through the Eastern Army. They aimed to break through and escape. This was a testament to the samurai spirit. Otani Yoshitsugu, a loyal and honorable general, fought to the bitter end. He was afflicted by illness but refused to yield. His forces were eventually overwhelmed. He committed seppuku rather than face capture. His unwavering loyalty became a legend. Mitsunari's position became untenable. His main forces were surrounded and decimated. He attempted to flee the battlefield. The rout of the Western Army was complete. Thousands lay dead or wounded on the field. The sun, now high in the sky, shone down on the scene of carnage. The battle had lasted only a few hours. Yet, its impact would reshape Japan for centuries. The pursuit of the fleeing Western remnants continued for days. Many prominent figures were captured or killed. Ishida Mitsunari was eventually apprehended. He was brought before Ieyasu. His fate was sealed. Along with other key Western leaders, he was executed in Kyoto. Their heads were displayed as a warning. This marked the end of the Toyotomi era. Ieyasu had emerged as the undisputed victor. His long game had paid off. He had eliminated his rivals and consolidated his power. The path to the shogunate was now clear. In 1603, Tokugawa Ieyasu was appointed shogun by the emperor. He established the Tokugawa shogunate in Edo, modern-day Tokyo. This marked the beginning of over 250 years of peace and stability. The Edo period, as it became known, was a time of profound cultural and economic development. Japan entered an era of isolation, largely cut off from the outside world. This allowed for the flourishing of a unique Japanese culture. The legacy of Sekigahara was immense. It was the battle that truly unified Japan. It ended a century of incessant warfare. The sacrifices made on that misty morning paved the way for a new order. The echoes of the battle resonated through generations. It became a symbol of loyalty, betrayal, and the relentless pursuit of power. The landscape of Sekigahara, once a scene of chaos, now stands as a quiet reminder. The mountains still watch over the valley. The wind whispers tales of samurai and their fateful choices. Memory of 1600 lives on in the heart of Japan. The unification was hard-won. The peace was a precious gift. The Tokugawa clan reigned supreme. Their rule brought an end to the Sengoku period. The country could finally heal. New laws were enacted. A new social order was established. The samurai class transitioned from warriors to administrators. Castles were rebuilt or dismantled. Roads were improved for trade and communication. The economy began to flourish. Arts and crafts thrived. Education became more widespread. Population grew steadily. Cities expanded rapidly. Edo became one of the largest cities in the world. Kyoto remained the imperial capital. Osaka became a major commercial hub. The daimyos were kept in check. Their power was carefully balanced. Alternate attendance, or Sankin Kotai, was enforced. This required daimyos to spend every other year in Edo. Their families remained in Edo as hostages. This policy prevented rebellions. It also stimulated the economy. Travel and lodging industries boomed. The shogunate maintained strict control. Foreigners were largely excluded. Christianity was suppressed. Trade was limited to a few ports. Nagasaki was the primary gateway. The Dutch were allowed a small trading post. This isolation policy was called sakoku. It lasted until the mid-19th century. The Battle of Sekigahara was the foundation. It laid the groundwork for this long period. Without it, Japan's history would be vastly different. The bravery of the warriors is remembered. The strategic genius of Ieyasu is celebrated. The tragedy of Mitsunari is lamented. The valley holds many secrets. The mist often returns. It shrouds the past. But the story remains clear. A nation forged in fire. A peace built on sacrifice. The legacy endures. The spirit of the samurai lived on, even in times of peace. Their code, Bushido, guided their lives. Honor was paramount. Loyalty was absolute. The common people benefited greatly from the stability and prosperity. They could farm their lands in peace. They could raise their families without fear. The arts flourished under patronage. Ukiyo-e prints captured daily life. Kabuki theater entertained the masses. Literature saw new forms emerge. Haiku poetry became popular. Zen Buddhism continued to influence culture. Tea ceremonies refined aesthetics. Flower arranging became an art form. The shogunate's power was absolute, but it was also benevolent. For the most part, there were occasional uprisings, but they were quickly suppressed. The system was robust. It adapted over time. The peace was not unbroken, but it was remarkably long. Compared to the preceding century, Sengoku period was a time of constant war. Sekigahara ended that. It was a turning point. A true watershed moment. The future of Japan was decided. On that fateful day, in that small valley, the echoes of battle faded, replaced by the hum of industry, the quiet rhythm of daily life. The unification was complete. A new chapter began. For the land of the rising sun. The year 1600 was pivotal. It set the course. For centuries to come, the memory of the battle is etched in history, a testament to human ambition and the quest for unity. The sun still rises over Sekigahara, a silent witness to the dawn of a new Japan.